why don't you just start by introducing yourself?
Great. Kendee Yamaguchi. I'm the Executive Director at Snohomish County Government.
Yeah, this is my first time
And
actually meeting someone in government, so this is kind of pretty cool for me.
yeah. Describe your day-to-day basis. Like, can you please tell us what you do on a daily routine or anything interesting you do?
So I guess I'd probably first start and say, like many people, probably no day is ever the same. So presently, I work on our executive management team, and given that we're currently in a pandemic with COVID-19, many of us are working on kind of essential areas. So I work on issues related to COVID and also economic development issues. So I manage departments, for example, including an airport, Payne Field, and other departments in government. But kind of a brief glimpse, I'd say, into my day. I'll give you a glimpse into, I'd say, 1 hour as kind of maybe an example from even this week. We were working on setting up one of the first vaccination sites in the county at our airport, and coordinating with multiple departments from emergency management to the health district for that, which does about 500 injections a day. And then we were launching the reopening of a grant program that will go live on Tuesday to help small businesses. And then in addition, just responding to inquiries. So that's kind of an example of 1 hour of what a day could look like with multiple types of issues.
So you mentioned that you work a lot in especially during COVID with stuff relating to COVID and small businesses and economic development. So I actually read an article about something that your department did with voice technology, and I thought it was really cool. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a really kind of exciting project in the sense that, well, when the pandemic hit, we had several inquiries coming in and kind of ever evolving and changing information. And a lot of people in the public, wanted to find out information on COVID. Our businesses wanted to find out how to secure funding grants to help them stay open, to people having questions about health. And we were really fortunate to partner with a private entity, Microsoft, and another business called Zamo to use artificial intelligence. So, if you own an Alexa, or I think it's a Google, or many other kind of devices, you can ask inquiry to get different types of answers. And why this is really interesting is, a lot of workplaces in government, right, are kind of 8 to 5, 9 to 5, but a lot of the public has really critical questions, maybe outside those hours. So this allowed us to be able to get information out to the public that was really critical, sometimes life-saving information too.
Building on top of that, can you describe any other exciting projects that you have been a part of and any organizations that you liked to work with?
One kind of signature project that partly brought me to work at Snohomish County was the opportunity to establish the first public-private partnership of a commercial terminal in the United States at Payne Field. Hopefully, you've had an opportunity to fly out or before the pandemic hit, or you can look forward to it later. In the future, but this is really an amazing project, the first in the nation. It got some international attention as well as some national awards. But over the course of my life, I've worked in 4 levels of government, and had the opportunity to work on what I call, I guess I should say, I coin legacy projects, projects that I feel will outlive kind of my life and being able to make a positive impact on other people. And some of those have included, for example, working for the Attorney General in our state to help kind of create our state's first civil rights unit, and other types of projects.
Can you explain more on your experience and working at the Clinton White House? I thought that was super interesting, and especially if I want to work in government later, I would think that would be super exciting to work at.
Yeah, So I was very, very fortunate to be the youngest Asian American political appointee by the president. I probably should share a little bit how that kind of came about, because I think it could directly apply to where you are in school and things that you're doing. So when I was in college, and even before college, I volunteered and I kind of did different types of activities. But when I was in my undergraduate studies, I was in college in Washington, D.C. And almost every semester, I interned for a different place. So, for example, I interned on a project with the United Nations. I interned at the Department of Justice. I had the opportunity, which is very, very rare, to live in an embassy on Embassy Row and intern for them. Um, and one of the internships I had was at the White House. And, I was an intern at the White House and a job opportunity came up. And, I tried to work really hard when I was an intern there and they offered me a position. So I was really, really fortunate, I think, in the timing of that. But I also had, quite honestly, interned almost every semester I was in college and over the summer. And so it gave me a lot of work experience and exposure and networking opportunities. But I was very, very privileged because I actually received a few promotions pretty rapidly at a young age into management. While I was there. But it was definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity. One thing I would share that was very, very meaningful for me, and a little bit of the reason why I work in government, is my family had been interned in a Japanese internment camp. And it's one of the reasons why I am in public service, because I felt that if we had leaders in our community, policy decision makers, that piece of history would not have occurred, and that I could ensure that would not happen in the future. And I was very privileged to work on one of the executive orders the president made impacting Asian American Pacific Islanders, the second in history to have a positive impact instead of a negative, of creating the White House Initiative on Asian American Pacific Islanders. So it was an amazing opportunity, felt very fortunate.
I've also learned about another exciting project that you've been working on with international relations with China and other Pacific Island countries.
Yeah, so part of my position is also working on trade. And Snohomish County is one of the most trade dependent geographic regions in the nation. Some of that is because we're very well known for our aerospace, of being a leader globally and nationally. In the area. And I at times represent the county to other foreign governments that we may have different relationships with, to basically continue our trade relations. Whether that be China, Japan, even, we've been to Mexico from Singapore to Dubai, but several other countries we've partnered with. For example, our airport has an airport partnership with a airport in Japan. We have some agreements that further some work around trade and bilateral relations with agriculture. Um, and other relationships with several other countries. But we are really unique in the sense that we are, I believe, second in the country in terms of a county of being the most trade dependent. And most people, that's a surprising fact and they don't realize, but we have some industries like aerospace and agriculture, right, that really are pronounced because of the diversity that we have in the county.
So your trading job, so it must have made you travel a lot, right? Did you like the traveling aspect of it, or was it a bit tiresome?
You know, um, I would say I love learning and meeting new people, in addition to kind of public service. And, you know, I wouldn't say it's tiring in the sense that you're learning. And so I was very excited to be able to go to other parts of the world and bring back ideas that were really innovative back home. So for example, Snohomish County Exploring being one of the first counties in the state of Washington to be a smart county was something that actually came out of one of our trade missions. I believe it was our trade mission to Mexico. And we've had other really, I think, innovative things that have come about because we saw some work that was being done in another part of the world, right? And it was something that we could learn about and bring back, whether it was a policy, an idea, an initiative, or a program to our area. So, but on the other side, if you do back-to-back trips, right, you have to kind of get used to the time change. So that can be a little bit of tiring in the sense of the timing of the trips, right? So if it is something that you're looking to get into, right, I think it depends on the type of job and the number of trips.
So I'm hearing from you that you really value diversity in all of the work that you do and like learning about cultures and things like that. Is there any particular experience with diversity or cultures that is really memorable to you?
I think I'd probably just really highlight the ability to work on an executive order. And it's kind of interesting, actually. You can see in this video, I realize this little frame right behind me. This is an actual executive order signed by the president. And as a gift to me in being able to work on that, it's usually given to congressional members. It's very rare to have an actual executive order signed by the president. And I'm in my home right now because of the pandemic. But I would say, in my lifetime, that's one of the most meaningful pieces of policy, because part of that initiative was to help increase participation of Asian Americans throughout government, increase opportunities across several different areas. And so, that had personal meaning to me because of my family background. It's something that reminds me every day too of the importance of working in government and the impact that you can make.
I saw that you were selected for the Washington State China Relations Council, and I thought that was really cool. Can you tell me more about that and like what you do for the board?
I'm one of the board members on the Washington State China Relations Council. And actually, the state of Washington, in terms of the United States, is one of the top trading partners with China. So, for example, whether there's purchases of planes or agriculture or other items. And so, as a board member, we stay educated on policy and changes on an international level that particular country is making, but also what our country is making, right? And part of our role with that organization, I think, is to continue to strengthen relationships and bilateral relationships for different types of trade support in different industries, as well as just maintaining relations as well, whether they're social, whether they're student exchanges, to whether they're kind of business, right, agreements that can help create jobs here, but can also help our company sell products right abroad, which in the end helps support employment, jobs, and workers in our area. But it's very fascinating actually, because a lot of times people's jobs, if they work in government, focus on only US government, right, or the local state government or a city government. This is a really unique position in the sense that while I do track and monitor and follow domestic, I also follow international as well.
Do you think we should include international relations and a focus on diversity and cultures in many other cities around the country as well?
On a county level, you do see it occasionally, but because I think we're the second most trade dependent county in the nation, right, that would be very different than maybe someplace in the Midwest or somewhere else, depending on where they geographically are. The reason also that contributes to that for us is because we're on the West Coast with the ports, right? So when you're going to the Pacific Rim and those countries, so part of our geography, I think, dictates some of that interest, right? But I think what you can see on TV, we are so globally connected, especially with all the, I shouldn't say new media, media of what it is now, online and other things, that I think it would be a kind of miss to not have it at the forefront. And I say that because you look at any Fortune 500 company, right? And the majority of them are like global. And you look at international companies, they are not only looking at the world or doing their business in a finite type of geographic region or space, right? And so that's why I'd say, that translates over into other industries, including the private sector and public sector and government, right? It can't be kind of that siloed. I think it's a little bit of a narrow view to detach it that way, because it can be pretty interconnected. Because, for example, you could have a trade agreement, whether Mexico or in the Pacific Rim or another part, actually impact on a local level. And some people don't necessarily understand that, right? But if there's a trade agreement, it could impact our farmers, it could impact others. So it is something that I think should stay at the forefront. But I'm biased, obviously, in my line of work.
What is your favorite part of your job? Like, what do you like to do and look forward to every day doing?
I would say being in a role that I know can make a difference and a positive impact on the lives of many on a daily basis is something that I really, really value. I was really fortunate to work for a president that instilled, I think, in all of the employees, like at the White House, that we could accomplish great things for the country, and to think big and to work on them and to actually do them. And because of this, I think I got a really unique experience that I still to this day work really hard to make policies, initiatives, or other things a reality. And some people think, oh, that's not possible. We can't do that, or that's, too innovative, or government's never done it. And the example you gave with artificial intelligence, right? And this chatbot, right? It just kind of taught me that, this idea of being able to have idea and something that can help others create a plan and execute on it to be a reality is, I think, something that's one of the most rewarding things about my job. And then having that thing help someone, right, and help the public, I think is probably one of the favorite for in your terms things about my job.
So finishing up this interview, do you have any advice you'd give to high school students about pursuing a career that they actually love, like you do?
Do what you love and what you're passionate about, because the passion that you have will lead you to success. And that's something that I've really, really followed, because sometimes I think we're drawn by other things. And there's the reality of actually obviously needing financial support and things like that, right? But, I think balancing that is important, but also pursuing things that you love, I think success will come, because it kind of will show through, right? When you're working on something, are you giving it your 110? Or are you giving it your 70 or 60, right? And I'd say, like, I'm very, very used to giving over 110%, because it's not just a job for me or a line of work. It's really integrated to my whole kind of person. They're combined, and my values. And so that's just, I think, one piece of advice I'd probably give.
Yeah, I think coming from an Asian family background, there's a lot of focus on having a good financial standing in the future and getting a job that it conduces that. And I've been really fortunate to have parents who don't really emphasize that so much more than like following your passions and doing really what you love, because happiness at the end of the day is the most important thing, and your health is the most important thing. Finance really, your finances and your job, it comes after that. So I definitely resonate with what you're saying with how you should really follow your passions, and success and all of the other things that you're looking for will come with that.
I also totally agree on that fact. I mean, it's really important to do what you love, and you're doing what you love. And I feel that's so inspiring, especially for students like high school students. And it inspires us to also find a career and a path that we inspire to do. Like you.
Yeah, for high school students, it's become like even more competitive than ever before because of social media and things like that. And just trying to remember that, hey, you're actually in the future, you're looking for your happiness, not to beat somebody else. Focusing on your passions and yourself, I think is really, really important, and not looking at other people and trying to compare yourself, because imposter syndrome, those kinds of things are real, and they're affecting high school students, middle school students even. And that it's really heartbreaking to see. I've suffered with imposter syndrome many times. So this kind of advice is really, really helpful, and just emphasizing that a lot to high school students especially is helpful too.